In a world where people are losing their minds, who will be the voice of sanity, of logic, of rationale, of morality and truth? This podcast is looking for like-minded people to stand up to the insane and be real. The Recovery Atheist podcast is calling you to step forward and be counted. Welcome to the voice of change. Welcome to the Recovery Atheist podcast.
Well, hello, everybody out there in Podcast Nation. You have joined me on the Recovery Atheist podcast, and I want to say that I am so excited that you've been able to join me for another episode. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I hope you're doing wonderful. I know I am. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Tonight's show is going to be more of just a catch up with what's going on with me, what's going on in current events. I plan on doing this once a month just to kind of talk about things that are not so serious and so heavy, but just get into some of my thoughts on some of the current events and things that are going on out there in the world. Alrighty. Ready to go? Well, pitter patter, let's get at her. All right, current events. First area that we're going to talk about is going to be some world issues. We'll start with that. I was reading an article on CNN a couple days ago, and then I went onto YouTube and started watching some videos about it. There's these holes that are happening out in Russia that are just showing up out of nowhere. They're blowing up rock and material, out of the crust, and they're leaving these huge deep holes in the ground, and they don't know exactly why or where they're coming from. Well, scientists have been doing more and more work, and they actually took drones. They took drones with these little meters on it that could register certain levels, and so they took the drones, they went down into these holes, and the methane gas levels was through the roof. They're starting to realize that methane gas that's in an ice form underneath the crust is melting and causing it to build up the gas and then exploding outwards, causing these holes that are in the ground. So the scientists were like, well, why is this possibly happening? Well, it's because of the climate change. It's getting warmer within the crust levels. And that ice that has the methane gas in it normally would stay frozen, and that wouldn't be happening. But those ice levels are starting to melt. Because of that, methane gas underneath the ground and the soil and the crust is building up, expanding. In fact, witnesses to these holes and these explosions said that before they would happen, the ground was mounding up, like something was lifting it up from underneath. That was all that methane gas underneath pushing up on the upper layer of the earth, and then out it goes. So it's melting. So again, people who want to sit there and say that climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it, is not happening, the science would tell something different. Now, most of you who are fans of my show and my podcast and my YouTube channel know that I am a huge believer in science. Huge. It is my Bible. And I'm okay with that if people want to ridicule me for it. But guess what? the numbers don't lie. And so this stuff is happening. And with our climate change, even a climate change of a couple degrees will have such an impact across the world. If we were 2 degrees warmer on average across the world, it would have a huge impact on the way our world functions today when it comes to the weather, when it comes to life, plant life, animal life, all of that. So it is something to be, concerned about. And these are just starting to show up more and more and more. All right, go on the lighter side of the worldview. Have any of you watched some of those tiny home shows? I love them, where they build those tiny little cabins, put it on some property, and they're like luxury cabins within a small 200 square foot box. I have thought about it that I would love to have one and put it on some property, maybe out in the woods for some hunting and things like that, and have a wood stove, and just that whole get away from society kind of thing. Again, that's kind of isolating, isn't it? But still, it's something that's a dream of mine. I could definitely live in a little tiny home like that by myself. I'm 45. I don't see myself getting married anytime soon or being in any kind of a serious relationship. That time has kind of passed and gone beyond. I'd be really surprised if that would happen again. If it does, it does, but I don't expect it, and so I take care of myself, and I'm okay with that. But it's funny, in London, they have a home there that is called the skinniest house in the world. It's in between two other flats homes in London, but it is a very tiny, skinny little home that's in between. Has 3 floors, but it's like barely enough room. I mean, we're talking 4 feet across, something of that nature. And then they have all these little tiny rooms within this 4 feet to 5 feet across house. It is on the market to buy. So if you're interested, you can go online and look it up. If you are interested in buying this little home, it's going to cost you $1.3 million. Okay? 1.3 million. Now, that being said, the Neverland Ranch, Michael Jackson's old home, I think sold for like 2.2 million. So yeah. I have a feeling they're not going to get too many offers. You could build your own little tiny skinny home for hell of a lot cheaper than 1.3 million. Now, I don't know the location in London. Maybe it's in a premier spot, but from the pictures I see of it, it doesn't look like it is, and it's not like it's got some wonderful view or anything like that. So I think they're just trying to sell it on recognition of it being the skinniest home in the world. But I don't know. I think they're probably going to have to lower the price on that one. All right, so we'll move on to politics. We're going to just get the fun stuff out of the way, right? So in politics, Biden rejects the idea of having the $50,000 student loan debt forgiveness plan. Now, I would have enjoyed this because I still owe like $90,000 on my student loans. I would have liked to have $50,000 debt forgiveness and drop it down. If they would have done that, I would have been more willing to sit down and talk some payment plans and try to get it back into being active and get it done so I could try to finish off my bachelor's degree. I'm only 12 credits away. But that being said, he has decided that that's not going to be. He's not going to sign it. It's not something he wants to put into play, even though the Democrats are pushing for it. He just says it's not something that's going to happen. Now, the biggest thing on everyone's mind right now, outside of COVID, would be the stimulus plan that's going into place. It looks like, as of right now, we're talking about mid-March to the end of March is when these stimulus checks and the stimulus money is going to be sent out. Now, originally, it was, the $1,400 for $75,000 or under. Then they were talking about dropping it down to $1,000, $40,000 per year and under. Now it's back up, and they're going to keep it at the $1,400 and $75,000 or less. So they're looking at that for the $1,400. They're looking at that to happen mid-March to the end of March. So keep an eye out for that. It's also going to have some other benefits dealing with food benefits, EBT, and also children dependents, getting more money for that. And then also dealing with unemployment benefits going longer. As far as I know, they're going to keep it at 300 extra unemployment benefits, but that it'll now go longer. It won't be cut off like it's supposed to be at the end of March. Rush Limbaugh dies. He was battling cancer for a while now, and he has passed. And he's had a long life. He died at 70, but he has been very prolific, been someone that it didn't matter what side of the aisle you were, whether you were left or right, you knew who Rush was. I remember back when his show, this is how old I am, I remember back when his show first started coming on, and I remember listening to his show just to hear what he would have to say. He was the Howard Stern of the right-wing conservative, kind of what Alex Jones is now. Of course, Alex Jones is a little bit further out there than Rush was. But Rush was very much a loud-mouthed, conspiracy theorist type right-wing conservative that was very vocal and very opinionated on what his beliefs were. I definitely did not agree with him. I definitely thought he was a bag of hot air. Thought that he did not connect with the real world, with the people that actually live in the real world. I thought he was more on the sides of the politicians than anybody else, which, you know, Trump gave him a medal this last year, which I thought was just like the Medal of Honor this last year, Congressional Medal of Honor. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you're telling me there's nobody else out there that deserves that medal more than Rush Limbaugh? I don't want to talk bad about a man who just died and everything, but I think that he is getting a little bit too much accolades for being a loudmouth. Just saying it. For being a racist, homophobic, misogynist loudmouth. It's just the truth. Biden. I was kind of looking into Biden and what he's been doing since he's been in office, and what executive orders he has put in place and what he has signed. So here's some of them. These are the ones that stood out the most to me. Immigration. No more of the separating of the families at the border like Trump was, where they were taking the kids and like putting them in random places in boxes, cages, whatever, and keeping them away from the family to where the point where families are never getting back together again. They end up either getting the kids get adopted out or sent back to the country that they're from. So it's like, yeah, how that's okay. I don't understand how Trump was able to get away with that and that was okay. So Biden canceled that out and said, no more of that. No more separating of the families at the border. If we're letting them in, they all stay together. If they're a refugee, they all stay together. Healthcare, he's reopening up enrollment at the healthgov.org, which is just another word for Obamacare and those insurances that for people who are less unfortunate that need it. He is opening up re-enrollment or enrollment for it so people can get their health insurance. Again, that is a good thing. Prisons. I read this and I was like, yes. He directed the Attorney General to not renew the federal not renew the federal contracts with private prisons. Now, our prison system is messed up. I mean, most of the prisons that are out there now are all privatized. And so they're there to make a profit. And so they do the cheapest for food, the cheapest for clothing, the cheapest for bedding, the cheapest for supplies, the cheapest for work. I mean, everything is cheap so they, bottom line, can make a buck. And then to the point where they do anything they can to violate that person so they can't get paroled, because they do not want to lose that person in that bed, because they're paid by the beds. So a lot of people that should be paroled, they hop up some bogus charge or some bogus thing on them and say, see, he's not being a good guy in here. It's not good behavior. We need to hold him. And then they end up holding him. Why? So they can keep him in the bed and continually get paid and make that profit. Well, because of this, Biden told the U.S. Attorney General, we will not be renewing federal contracts with the private prisons, which means construction contracts, defense contracts, anything like that, gone. You're going to have to do it yourself. The government is no longer helping you with it. Now, that could be good and bad. It could be good because then they're going to have to realize that the government, is now away from it, so the government could possibly regulate it now. Instead of the government having their hands in it, the government could come in and actually regulate it as a private business. That could be good. On the other hand, though, it could be bad to where these private prisons really bottom out. And prisons are the worst place ever to be if they're not already. Okay. Another great one. Military. Biden reverses Trump's ban on transgender Americans joining the military. What does it matter, Trump? Seriously. If they're able to go to war and shoot a gun and do all that, what does it matter if they're male, female, or transgender? What are we, back in 1900? I mean, come on. Let's get over it. Times have changed. Let's just move on. Let's move forward, people. This isn't changing. This isn't going away. It's here to stay. There's nothing you can do about it. You can sit there and try all you want, but all you're going to do is look like you're the most horrible person on the planet. That time has passed. You no longer get to do that stuff without repercussions and consequences. So stop with that bullshit. Just stop. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable to hear someone pray. But does that mean I get to go over and arrest them or punch them in the face just because they're doing something that I just really can't stand because I know it's a bunch of lies? No. They get the right to live the way that they want to live, and if they want to pray and do church and talk about God, that's on them. I can't change that. I can't force them. Neither do you have the right to tell that to somebody else who's transgender, gay, black, white, Asian. Don't matter. Aren't we beyond that now? Let's stop telling people what they're supposed to do. Why don't you just worry about yourself? How about that? Worry about yourself. Federal, Biden's looking to raise the federal work minimum wage to $15 an hour. He's also calling for more assistance to people who are struggling with food, which he's going to be taking care of that, I think, mainly with the EBT. Going to be raising the food benefits back up again. With the world, he's going to stop the U.S. withdrawal. He's already started it, actually. Withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Trump had stopped that and pulled us out of there. And it's like, whoa. Time out. This is a organization with all these different countries together working to have the best health that we can in the world, and you're just pulling us out. And then now look at our situation with the coronavirus. Really, Trump? He's a moron. I'm just going to say it. He makes bad decisions. Biden is also halting the construction of the border wall. Again, why do we need it? We're going to put one up on Canada too? I mean, we got Reagan saying, Gorbachev tear down this wall, and now we got Trump saying, let's build this wall. I mean, come on. Let's stop with this bullshit. People, just because you have a wall up, Trump, is not going to stop people from coming over from other countries. They'll find another way. It's not. Instead, you're just taking our taxpayers' money and putting it into a wall that is not going to stop it. How about we take that money and put it back into social services and other things that we need, the infrastructure in our own country for the citizens that are already here. Let's focus on citizens again and stop worrying about immigrants and illegals. That shit's been going on for centuries, whether it be here or in other countries. You're not going to stop it. It's like the war on drugs. You can fight it all you want. You're not stopping it. If they want to get high, they're gonna get high. It's also dropping travel restrictions on several Muslim countries. Remember, Trump put that into place that we're not going to have anyone coming over from the Middle East or whatever. Again, if they want to get into this country, they'll just fly into Canada and come across the border where there is no wall. They want to get in, they're going to get in. No matter what you think you're going to do. Stop wasting taxpayers' money on stuff that you can't stop in the first place. And then as you're doing that, you're just putting a little of that money in your back pocket, right? Just put it back there. Oh, they won't notice that that's missing. Business side of it, a couple different things. The first thing I noticed was we're right now in a fast food war. It's all about who can have the best chicken sandwich. The best chicken sandwich. Everybody is fighting for the best chicken sandwich right now. And it's funny, one of the best chicken places out there that I think, Popeye's Chicken. We've got one in North Minneapolis. I know some of you people down there know what I'm talking about. Down where I lived in Kentucky, they're all over the place. In Louisville, Lexington, Popeye's Chicken. I love it. Especially the Cajun. Spicy Cajun is amazing. They, instead of coming out with the new chicken, they said, fuck that shit. We're coming out with a new fish sandwich. So they came out with the new fish sandwich that's supposed to be the king fish of all sandwiches. So I'm going to be down in St. Paul this weekend. Maybe on Saturday I might have to just swing over to Popeye's there in North Minneapolis, there off of Broadway. Might have to stop in there and see if I can't get me one of those. See if I like it. The other thing is the Dow Jones numbers just keep going up and up and up and up. And I guess Warren Buffett sold a lot of his stocks and bought a lot of Verizon stocks. Because Verizon, they're going through the roof right now with their stock rates. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if finally Warren Buffett has gotten on the technology boost thing, or maybe Verizon has something coming out that's going to be state of the art and just put Apple and iPhone away. I don't know. But for some reason, one of the richest man, if not the richest man in the world ever, putting his money into Verizon. Guess we'll see what that's about in the upcoming months. Health-wise, we're continually running out of the COVID vaccines. They're behind. In fact, where I live here in St. Louis County, they actually had to postpone and cancel a lot of vaccination appointments because we just don't have the vaccines. So, they're behind on that. Biden says he's going to make sure that they get back up to speed and get that back. It's interesting, all that is going on, but yet we got this douchebag down in Milwaukee who's a flat earther who thinks the vaccines are fake and not real and blah, 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 and he's destroying them, and that's what he does. He's a pharmacist. Really, dude? These people need this stuff. You conspiracy theorists out there that think there's some fucking microchip in it and all that bullshit, come on. They don't need to put a microchip in. Do you carry your fucking phone everywhere you go? Because if you do, that's all they need to do. they don't need to put a microchip into you through a vaccine. They already know where you're fucking at. Come on. Like people, when I hear people talk about, well, I don't use my credit card on the internet because I don't want people gaining access to my private accounts and everything like that. Trust me, if they wanted your accounts, if they wanted to do identity theft to you, they could. It wouldn't matter whether you put your card on the account or not, or on the internet or not. All you got to do is go to the dark web. There's people buying credit card numbers all the time through those sites. Okay, so if someone really wants to take your identity and take over your accounts, they just do it. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. If you're doing crimes, trust me, they know you are. It's just whether or not you're big enough fish for them to fry. They know you are. The Patriot Act, you know, and Edward Snowden talks about this. The Patriot Act has been in place for years now. And they can read every single one of your emails, your texts. Hell, this camera that I'm using right now through my laptop to do this, they could be watching me right now do this with you. And I would have no idea. Every time I'm open and I'm using my laptop, they could be watching me through the webcam. They could turn on the microphone and listen to me that way. Alexa's another one. My phones, trust me. Facebook has it right in their own privacy rights that way, where you accept all the restrictions and all the rules and everything. It says right in there that they can turn on the microphone when they want. They say it's for advertisement purposes. You always wonder why you're sitting in front of the television and you just seen something on the television and you start talking to a friend of yours about it. Next thing you know, you've got an advertisement up on Facebook for that same exact thing. Or you're talking about an old friend that you haven't talked to in 15 years and you say the person's name and you're talking to a friend about it, and all of a sudden you go on and, oh, look, there's a friend suggestion for that same person that you were just talking about. Why do you think that is? It's not just the algorithm. The algorithm's not that smart. It's because they have the microphone on recording what you're saying. And then the algorithm, off what it hears, then pushes that out. Okay? That's how this works. I know a lot of you are like, no way, it's just conspiracy. No, that's really how it works. We're jacked into the system like the Matrix every day. Sure, we don't have a little needle that goes in the back of our head like on the Matrix and puts us in this virtual world, but we are jacked in every day. It's called our phones. It's called Alexa. It's called our TVs, our internet accesses. Anytime we do any social media. Anytime we punch them at work, because when you punch it at work, most likely it's set up to a GPS system. Like the last job I had, when I punched in, you couldn't punch in unless your GPS location was at that site to be able to do it. So no matter what, even within the time tracking, I was being located by GPS that I am at work. I am constantly being followed with where my location is. So trust me, if something was wanting to be done to you, whether it be the police find you or someone steal your identity, any of that, it would be done already. Just the truth. Sorry. We got the Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears controversy. Now, I'm a huge JT fan. I love Justin. I've loved him ever since he was in NSYNC and that first couple albums he came out solo with, Cry Me a River. That's really the song that is really the major controversy going on. That Justin Timberlake, throughout that whole entire scenario, that he was built up to be this great star and Britney was torn down. That's the whole controversy about it. Now, this is what I got to say about this. Okay. You know, we got the guy who was on YouTube back in the day. Leave Britney alone! But no, I'm not going to leave her alone. She made some bad choices. That was not Justin's fault. Okay, we need to back off of Justin a little bit here. Her downfall was not because of Justin. She made some bad choices. She got hooked in with some bad people. She got hooked in with some bad substances. And she went cray-cray. Okay? It happens. It's okay, Brittany. I'm not judging you. I have done the same thing. I get it. But just because you're Britney Spears doesn't give you special right to blame other people. You're still playing the victim role, Brittany. And I'm sorry, I don't have any empathy for you. Okay? You need to suck it up and realize that you dropped the ball on a lot of this. Okay? Justin didn't tell you to shave your head, which I find interesting. Everyone says she shaved her head because she went crazy and all that shit. No. She shaved her head because in 2 weeks, they were in a couple days they were getting ready to do a drug test on her to whether or not she could keep custody of her kids. Okay, and so the drug test was hair. Now, if you know anything about drug tests, which I do, I've given probably 2,000 urine analysis to clients over my lifetime. Being an LADC, a drug counselor, and also house managing and things of that nature. Urine is the easiest. Then you got saliva, a swab that you can get. Those are very inconsistent, though. They're not always foolproof. The best one is hair. Now, hair costs the most. It's the most expensive to test. And it takes longer for them to get the results back. But when they test it, it tests for 2 years. So in other words, whatever you did in the last 2 years will show. So she's in the middle of this custody battle. She's going cray-cray. She's drinking. She's drugging it. Okay? She knew she was going to have a drug test where she were going to take hair. And so what does she do? She shaves every single piece of hair off of her. It wasn't just her head. She was smooth. She was not going to give them a hair sample. Okay, it wasn't just that she was cray-cray. I find it very interesting and very convenient that 2 days before they're going to grab a hair sample off on her, all of a sudden now her head is completely shaved. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think her lawyer was very smart. Because they fought it off. You got to have at least a 2-inch hair to be able to do the... So that's going to take a while for her to get that hair back. Within that time, she could do a lot of detoxification, other things like that. The hair is going to be new. Okay, new hair growing in, not the same hair that was on her head. So, yeah. And it wasn't long after that she got her custody of her kids back. Very smart. But let's be honest about it. It wasn't just she was just cray-cray. She actually was pretty smart. Okay. I know Brittany at times, she tries to act like an idiot. She's not an idiot. She's got some smarts up there. But yeah, stop blaming JT for this bullshit, man. He's had enough issues to deal with. Super Bowl with Janet Jackson, and yeah, he's had enough fucking things to deal with. He's definitely not thinking about you anymore, Brittany. He's moved on. Maybe it's time for you to do the same. That's all I'm saying. All right, sports. We got the Summer Olympics coming up. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Whether or not they're going to be able to do it and not have breakouts. I know they're trying to get as many vaccinations done of the players, of the athletes before they come. And they're going to have also a bunch of them supposedly on site in Tokyo for that. Don't know exactly everything yet that they're going to do with fans, if fans are going to be allowed or if it's going to be completely just the athletes. I really hope that they do it. I think it would be good to get the world back on track again, sports-wise, when it comes to the Olympics. I think it would be something that people would be interested in watching. I think they'll get good numbers. So, for me personally, yeah, I hope it does work out and they're able to get that together. Did you hear about this Olympic medalist? He's out of Australia, played for the basketball team. He was arrested having $1.6 million worth of meth on him. You know, we talk about athletes all the time where they go from, you know, being high on the ladder of success to being high on the road to destruction with drugs and alcohol. And here's another story of that. He won a bronze medal, and here he is being arrested with $1.6 million worth of meth. That's a lot of fucking meth. Lots of fucking meth. You remember Brett Reed? He's Andy Reid's son or nephew, I can't remember, but he got in that car crash before the Super Bowl, ended up hurting those kids. Supposedly he had had some drinks at the restaurant, was on his way home, hit a parked car where the kids were in it. One of the kids was injured severely. Well, supposedly, and of course, Brett, he ended up getting fired from Kansas City as a coach because of it, and they're still doing investigations. The child that was severely injured has awoke. So they're out of the coma, they're awake and moving toward recovery. That sounds wonderful. That's great to hear that that's what's going on with that. The biggest news in sports, though, especially in the NFL, is where is J.J. Watt going to go? So Houston Texans, they ended up letting Wisconsin Badger J.J. Watt leave, released him. To allow him to go and find a team that he can go to and try to contend for a Super Bowl title, because they knew in Houston that wasn't going to be the case anytime soon, especially with the Deshaun Watson issues going on where he might even be traded before the season starts. Definitely Houston's going to be, I think, in the toilet for a while, even if they do have Deshaun. So JJ wanted out. He's getting toward the end of his career. He wants to go somewhere to where he can win, kind of a little bit like what Gronk and Brady and all the players in Tampa Bay did. So he's looking that way. I know everyone right away is going to be like, he's going to go to Tampa. Well, Tampa really doesn't look like that's going to be the case. They're pretty set at the linebacker positions to where I don't see where Watt would fit in with them, especially when they've already won a Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure they're going to want to stay with what they have. There's a few teams that are coming up as being front runners, and I'll break down some. Pittsburgh is one just because his brother is there. So J.J. Watt's brother is there. I think it's T.J. Watt. He plays the linebacker there in Pittsburgh, so him and his brother together, he might want to do that. But again, I would say Pittsburgh, even though they were in the playoffs, they're nowhere near ready. Even if they added JJ, I don't see that being what puts them over the top to win a title. Big Ben is looking pretty old out there, pretty stiff. The other teams is like Cleveland. Now Cleveland is an interesting one because Cleveland, I mean, they looked pretty good against Kansas City, almost beat them in the playoffs. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be the kind of guy that's going to be a franchise quarterback for them. So I think that's very interesting. In that defense, put him with Myles Garrett. You know, that might just be a pretty damn good team to go to. Now, the other one is my personal favorite, which today they made some moves. David Baccarati, the left tackle, took some of his salary contract money he gets every year and put it into a signing bonus to where it doesn't count toward the cap. So the Packers today, my team, freed up $8.4 million per year to be able to use toward free agencies and contracts. Now, the first thing I think they should do is they need to get Corey Lindsey re-signed. He's the offensive lineman, is probably our best one on the line. We need to get him re-signed. That's the most important thing to do first. And then after that, I would like to see them go after Aaron Jones and keep him. I would like to see them keep Aaron Jones, the running back. I think the chances of that are going to be 50-50. I think it could go either way. Aaron might take a pay cut to stay or do some kind of contract to where, it doesn't hit the cap as hard with other things with the signing bonus. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, he's talked about it as well, will restructure some of his contract to free up some money to be able to keep Aaron Jones. I think it's pretty important we do. The only other option there that I've heard of is letting Aaron Jones go and maybe bringing in James White from New England. There's been talks about maybe trading and bringing in James White, who's about a $1.5 million a year contract, which is fine. But he's older. He's on the other side of his career. He's not as fast, I think, and he's definitely not as fast, as explosive, elusive as Aaron Jones. I would like to keep Aaron Jones with Jamal Williams as the 1-2 punch, and then us be able to have the other running back there, the big boy, there to be able to run the ball when we need it. But I would like to see him happen to keep it. If there's a way to be able to do it, to bring in a guy like J.J. Watt into Green Bay, I say pull the trigger. Okay? It's only going to help the defense, bringing a guy of his veteran status and experience in. You've already got the Smith brothers, Adarius, Preston. On the outside, you got Kenny Clark hitting it hard up in the middle. You bring him in with those linebackers, and I think, with our backfield, with how good our backfield is with Alexander and Savage and those guys, I think having a guy like J.J. Watt, even if he was only coming in on second downs and every third downs, would be a huge difference for this Packer defense with the experience he brings. So I'd like to see it happen. Okay, Packers, go out there, get it done, because the Recovery Atheist has spoken. The Recovery Atheist said so. And then I'm going to end on this one. How's the weather where you're at? It's been a pretty interesting week, hasn't it? A couple weeks, actually. The polar vortex that they had been talking about, it's finally gotten here, and we've been in it for the last couple weeks. I know here where I'm at, we've been below zero for 2.5 weeks. Just today, we finally are getting in the teens again. We hadn't hit the teens we've been in either lower single digits to below zero for the last 2.5 weeks. Today, we got up to like 14, 15 degrees, and it felt like a heat wave. It's supposed to be up in the 30s by Sunday. That's going to feel like we're in summertime. But the biggest story going on, because that's normal for here in Minnesota, we get cold like that. But the biggest story is what's been going on in Texas and Louisiana and all those states, Arkansas. I mean, all the ice and the snow and the power outages. Oklahoma, the power outages. We don't have issues like that here. We deal with snow and stuff like that all the time. Of course, we don't deal with heavy ice that would cause the electric, the lines to go and crash, or disconnect from the lines and cause power to be out. But we don't deal with stuff like power outages and stuff with the cold. Maybe some of it is we're just prepared for it. I know we're definitely prepared with salt and plows and things like that you guys down there are not. So it's been very interesting how cold it's been. up down in those areas. It's almost like we got a little bit of an ice age that kind of happened this winter. But I just want to say, be safe out there. Make sure you're bundled up. Take an emergency kit with you in the car if you got to go somewhere, if you're still dealing with that weather down there. And just take your time. Go slow. If you don't have to drive, don't go anywhere. If you don't need to go anywhere, don't go anywhere. That's what we say here. Here in Minnesota, when we know a big snow is coming in, we go to the store, we pack up on what we need, and we don't go anywhere unless we absolutely have to. We stay inside and just enjoy the warmth of the home. So that's my story tonight, and I'm going to stick to it. A little bit of current events for you guys. Hope everyone out there is having a better 2021. Remember, you can get a hold of me at therecoveryatheist@gmail.com. You can find me at Facebook under Del Bacon. I have a Recovery Atheist group page on there. You can find me on YouTube, The Recovery Atheist. And you can take me on the go wherever you on the go. Spotify, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio. You can ask Alexa, play the Recovery Atheist podcast, and she'll do it. So take me on the go when you're on the go. Just want to say it's been an exciting 2021 so far, and we're going to keep on kicking. This weekend, I'm going to be down in St. Paul doing some podcasting with a buddy of mine, so we'll have another episode from me being down there. I'm taking my whole entire studio kit down there to be able to do it. So I'm excited to be able to see you. That'll be on Saturday. So you'll see me soon. I'm going to get this posted and another one of my podcasts posted up, and then we'll get that one started for this weekend. So be safe out there. Wear your masks. Love each other. And I love you. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Atheist podcast. It's now up to you. What will you do with what you've heard? How will you use it? I challenge you not to stay silent. Be heard. Be real. Be different.